In order to comprehend and utilize this body of information, we need to put in the effort to learn or brush up on some skills, and to develop comfort with the idea of paradox as it lives across our various and wonderfully diverse cultures. Then, with our paradoxical lenses, we move into the new millennium with a delightful curiosity for those things previously ignored, diminished, or absent in life. We recognize a hunger for a civilized community currently blocked from our view. We intend to clue you in and leave you dupeless.
Paradox. There's a saying in the mental health industry that the ability to deal with ambiguity, a production of paradox, is a sign of mental health. We say at Noodle Brain Productions that when we include the concept of paradox in our analysis of concepts and experiences, we have some breathing room to see how things can be true and false at the same time, depending on whose point of view is considered. If one is capable of seeing paradox, then one can empathize with another who has a different point of view. We can learn to first tolerate, then appreciate those differences as valid. Once we can accept differing ways of enculturation, we can be less reactive and less threatened and more curious. We have incredibly diverse sets of human beings and ways of producing culture on this planet. It's joyous to explore them when unthreatened. The only way to stop being threatened is to recognize that no one way is right or wrong, just different. To each his own.
We invite you to be a sleuth with us as we seek to expose misology at its roots, to bring us all collectively and simultaneously out of the cave of darkness that makes fodder of us for profit and robs us of our humanity. We can profit from goods and services that empower humanity and the planet rather than hurt us. But until we start to make that a conscious demand and preference, we're caught by industries that frankly don't give a damn.
Fodder. There's a loaded word. What does it mean? Well, Webster says, something fed to domestic animals. Check here for sources of mad cow disease. We'll get into that later. Sooner, I hope. 2. Something that is used to supply a constant demand. For instance, collected data which become computer data. The Noodle Brain definition, Noodle Brain commentary, is we cannot have a war without soldiers and their transport and care. We cannot have a crime economy without judges and criminals. We cannot have religion without priests and sinners, or soldiers too, it seems. If we are going to earn our living and develop social grounding in these fields, we are creating war and crime economies of means, and we assert that we might come up with a better idea. What do you say?
Misology, a hatred of argument, reasoning, or enlightenment.
Our friend Alex just gave you the definition of misology, but I just want to talk about it a little more. Misology is really a brilliant word. If you think about it, generally we're taught that if we go into conflict, it's a really bad thing. And misology is the hatred of argument, debate, reason, or enlightenment. Well, let me tell you this. If you take a look at the negotiating conflict module on Noodle Brain, you'll see a model that was created at Harvard University about how to negotiate conflict. And one of the most essential things that you learn about negotiating conflict is when you do it with someone, when you're in a battle, a verbal battle with someone that you can trust, then you find out what your deepest convictions are. You actually learn what it is that you know and what you believe in. If you don't have an opportunity to do that, you never know. Chances are you'll change in front of every person you stand in front of. And that doesn't make for a good, solid human being with a strong subjective reality that can actually deal with life in any productive way. I don't know if that's any good.
That was brilliant.
It was. With these tools, we find ways to share our humanity with our salad bowl world collectively so that fear, alienation, greed, and hatred no longer divide us as the means to generate wealth, for 5% of the population who game us. We are now playing a different game, and our labor is our launch pad. As usual, who we work for and how we spend our buck determines our fundamental quality of life issues.
Salad bowl world. We assert that we do not live in a melting pot, but in a salad bowl world. The truth is, if you look at the anthropological and sociological data, people do not give up their core cultural mores, but bring with them incredible differences that can be delightful and curious, when we are not expecting them to be the same or to adapt to ways that are not core for them. The context of our differences shifts to something more curious when we get over the cultural shock that are other ways of being a human being besides our own. And they have survived and will continue to survive. So why fight it? Why not enjoy our incredibly diverse brothers and sisters so we can learn to share power and resources without our differences being an issue? Thank you.
When we recognize the collective power we have by asserting ourselves in collective ways, we can enlighten the current aristocracy to listen up. We're quite sure the artful aristocracy on the planet are fence-sitters. That means they operate out of low trust, low agreement, and take few leaps forward in evolutionary processes in order to hold on to what they've got, unless they think they're going to lose. Then they begin to pay attention. Collective power. This is a noodle brain definition. The power of synergy, where whole items, when combined, are more than the sum of their parts. In this context, we mean the collective power of people joining forces, being on the same page regarding our collective public interest issues.
Aristocracy. Government by the best individuals or by a small privileged class. The governing body of upper class usually made up of a hereditary nobility. The aggregate of those believed to be superior. Or, as Noodlebrain would put it, the people who control the wealth on the planet and therefore the context within which our economics are determined.
As it is, we operate as programmed rats or docile, servile citizens doing their bidding for some cheese or social standing, and they are becoming more corrupt than usual, not dealing with the real issues at hand, reducing our humanity to moral conversations rather than ethical ones. We regard moral conversations as conversations that are based in a dominant culture's religious point of view, while ethical conversations are universally based in the principles of ethics, logic, and passion. So if the conversation has the goodwill of others in mind, addresses all possibilities in a debate, and evokes the excitement or calming down of those who are party to the conversation, then an ethical conversation has taken place. If judgments, evaluations, shame, blame, credit, or praise for any one particular ideology are taking place, then a moral conversation ensues. We assert that moral conversations keep competitive, warlike challenges in place, while ethical conversations promote truth and peace.
Ethics. The discipline of dealing with what is good and bad and with moral duty and obligation. A set of moral principles and values. Noodlebrain says, your ethics determine your character, intelligence, and goodwill as it shows up for others in general. Ethics, logic, and passion are the three offices or proofs of truth as defined by Aristotle about 500 BC. They are the foundations of Western thought. When one stands in these three offices of truth, one's word is law in the universe. According to the book, The Rhetoric of Western Thought, ethics requires all three components. Character, you are distinctly different from others. Intelligence, you have the ability to communicate that character in such a way that people know there's no one like you.
That's really sweet.
Goodwill, you will always will good and never will ill against another with the powerful combination of intelligence and character.